presentation on Man in Space by Danaya Gupta, Grade 3 Majestic. Yuri Gagarin, first person to travel in space in 1961. He was a Russian astronaut.
Yuri Gagarin, first man in space, 12th of April, 1961. Yuri Gagarin was born near Moscow, Russia, on March 9, 1934, and was the son of a carpenter. Yuri joined the Soviet Air Force in 1955, and by 1959, he was training to become a cosmonaut. In 1960, Gagarin was selected along with 19 other candidates for the Vostok 1 program. Eventually, the program was narrowed down to 2 possible candidates. Gagarin and German Titov both had excellent performance in their training and were short enough to fit in the Vostok cockpit. Gagarin was perhaps selected because of his modest background, which suited Soviet Union propaganda, but also because the other candidates voted for him. His excellent memory skills, fast reactions, and mathematical skills. At age 27, on the morning of 12th of April, 1961, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was helped into his spacesuit and made his way to the launch pad. He climbed into the Vostok spacecraft, wondering if he would return back to Earth, but was calm. At 9:07 a.m. Moscow time, as the engines rumbled, Gagarin said, "Let's go." The rockets blasted off into space, and in 10 minutes, the Vostok spacecraft separated from the launch rocket. Gagarin was in space. He crossed the Atlantic Ocean, then the Pacific Ocean, and as his spacecraft passed over Africa, he prepared to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, which would not be easy. He had orbited Earth for 108 minutes during the flight. As he made re-entry, the cables joining the Vostok's descent module to the service module failed to detach properly, almost causing disaster as it violently shook Gagarin, until they eventually pulled apart. As he re-entered Earth's atmosphere, he experienced forces up to 8 times the pull of gravity, but remained conscious. Because the Vostok spacecraft had no engines to slow down its re-entry upon landing, Gagarin had to eject out and parachute to Earth. He landed safely near the Volga River. Yuri Gagarin was made a national hero of the Soviet Union and became a global celebrity. He died on March 27, 1968, during an accident in a military training flight. He was just 34 years old.
Neil Armstrong, first person to land on Moon along with 2 other American astronauts named Edwin and Michelle in 1969.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin.
It was the ultimate peaceful competition, USA versus USSR. I'll not assert that it was a diversion which prevented a war, but nonetheless it was a diversion. It was intense and it did allow to both sides to take the high road with the objectives of science and learning and exploration. Eventually provided a mechanism for engendering cooperation between former adversaries. In that sense, among others, it was an exceptional national investment for both sides.
Rakesh Sharma, first Indian to travel in space in 1984.
Quick facts on Rakesh Sharma, the first Indian to travel space. Rakesh Sharma, born January 13, 1949 in Patna, Punjab, India, was a squadron leader in the Diphtheria, Indian Air Force. He was the first Indian and 138th person to travel in space. He joined the Air Force as a cadet in 1966 at the age of 18 and was admitted to the National Defense Academy as an Air Force plebe in July 1966. An alumnus of the 35th National Defense Academy, he joined as a test pilot in the Indian Air Force in 1970. He flew various Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG aircraft starting from 1971. Rakesh Sharma swiftly progressed through many levels, and in 1984 he was appointed as the squadron leader and pilot of the Indian Air Force. He was selected on the 20th September in 1982 to become a cosmonaut and go into space as part of a joint program between the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, and the Soviet Interkosmos Space Program. In 1984, he became the first Indian citizen to enter space when he flew aboard the Soviet rocket Soyuz T-11 launched from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakh, Soviet Socialist Republic on the 2nd of April 1984. The Soyuz T-11 docked and transferred the three-member Soviet-Indian international crew, which also included the ship's commander, Yuri Malyshev, and flight engineer, Gennady Strekhalov, USSR, to the Salyut 7 orbital station. India became the 14th nation to send a man to outer space. While in space, he along with the rest of the crew slept for 9 hours and then spent the rest of the time working. He spent a total of 7 days and 21 hours in space, during which time he conducted a number of experiments, including silicium fusing tests. His work was mainly in the fields of biomedicine and remote sensing. He also did yoga to see if that form of exercise affected the body in space. Sharma retired from the Air Force as wing commander. He was given the Hero of Soviet Union by the Soviet government and the Ashok Chakra by the Indian government. The crew held a joint television news conference with officials in Moscow and then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. When Indira Gandhi asked Sharma how India looked from outer space, he replied, "Sar Jahan se achcha, the best in the world."
Kalpana Chawla, first woman of Indian origin, first went with fellow crew in 1997 and later in 2003. She lost her life while returning back to the earth.
An Indian-American woman in space. Adapted from Span. January, February 1998. Kalpana Chawla said that she never dreamed, as a child in Karnal, that she would cross the frontiers of space. It was enough that her parents allowed her to attend engineering college after she graduated from Tagore School. After a Bachelor of Science degree in aeronautical engineering, against great opposition from her father, she went for a master's degree to the United States of America. She later earned her PhD in aerospace engineering. Kalpana Chawla was the first Indian-American woman astronaut to blast off from the launch pad at Cape Canaveral, Florida, and participate in a successful mission in space. Her family from India cheered along with staff at the Kennedy Space Center as they watched the Columbia lift off. Kalpana was born in Karnal, Haryana, but was a naturalized US citizen, married to flight instructor Jean-Pierre Harrison. Besides being an astronaut, she was licensed to fly single and multi-engine land airplanes, single-engine seaplanes and gliders. She was also a certified flight instructor. After qualifying as a pilot, Kalpana began to consider another challenge, applying to NASA's Space Shuttle program. She was first hired as a research scientist at NASA. In 1994, she was selected by NASA for training as an astronaut. When asked what it was like being a woman in her field, she replied, "I really never ever thought, while pursuing my studies or doing anything else, that I was a woman or a person from a small city or a different country. I pretty much had my dreams like anyone else, and I followed them. And people who were around me, fortunately, always encouraged me and said, "If that's what you want to do, carry on." Kalpana's first space mission in the Space Shuttle Columbia was 15 days, 16 hours, and 34 minutes long. During this time, she went around the Earth 252 times, traveling 10.45 million kilometers. The crew included a Japanese and a Ukrainian astronaut. The crew performed experiments such as pollinating plants to observe food growth in space, and tests for making stronger metals and faster computer chips, all for a price tag of about $56 million. On the Saturday night, when the news about the Columbia disaster broke, there was shock and disbelief. The town of Karnal spent a sleepless night as thousands of households stayed glued to their television sets in the hope that Kalpana and the crew had somehow survived. A journalist wrote, "She was a heroine. It takes enormous ability to become an astronaut. You need to know a lot about everything, from biology to astrophysics to aeronautical engineering. In this age of super specialization, you must have encyclopedic knowledge to be an astronaut." Her achievement is awe-inspiring. For millions of young Indians, the story of Kalpana Chawla, a girl from a small town who touched the skies, had become an inspiration. In a message that she sent from aboard the space shuttle Columbia to students of her college in Chandigarh, Kalpana said, "The path from dreams to success does exist. May you have the vision to find it, the courage to get onto it. Wishing you a great journey. There will surely be many who start off on this journey to fulfill their dreams."
Sunita Williams, second woman of Indian origin to travel space. She has a world record of spending 195 days in space. That is the longest period in space.
A lot of people ask about toothbrush and toothpaste. So, luckily enough, toothpaste, you can do it upside right this way, is sticky, and so it sticks to your toothbrush, no problem. Another cool thing is that water sticks to your toothbrush too. If you can see it, I'll have some water come out. The water is pretty neat up in space. It'll stick to your toothbrush, and it will make a big bubble. And that's just by surface tension. And then you can drink it. So a lot of people ask about what do you do with the toothpaste after you brush your teeth. Two options. Swallow it, and it's sort of like mouthwash, but it tastes a little gross. Or you can just spit it out in a paper towel, and then you don't have to worry about it. Swallowing thing I wouldn't recommend at home. I'm only up here for 4 months, so it's not that bad.